And welcome to this edition of the Eye on Preps podcast. I'm Chip Souza with the Hog Sports Network, joined by Erick Taylor with the Arkansas Democrat-Gazette, who is back from a great game he saw over the weekend, Ouachita Baptist, Henderson State. What a great game, E. Man, and you know what? There's a lot of Arkansas kids, playing for both of those teams.
There's a lot of, honestly, the majority of those rosters are full of Arkansas kids, man, which you love to see.
Yeah.
In teams like that, man. Two really, really good Division II teams, two of the best teams in the country, and indeed, too, to be quite honest, man. The atmosphere, I think I tweeted this out Saturday, man. Just going to be hard pressed to find a better atmosphere, particularly with D2 football, than what you get whenever those teams plays, man. I mean, it's amazing. It was almost 10,000 people at the game.
Wow.
I think it was like 9,800 people there. Standing room around the berms, end zones, corners, wherever you can get in. That's pretty much where you were. But great atmosphere, man. Another great game, which is always the case when they play, man.
Battle of the Ravine.
Battle of the Ravine, man. That was 96th edition of it, I believe.
Wow, that is fantastic. I love that for our state that they have that, and they've continued to hang on to that tradition, man. That's
Right.
awesome,
Exactly, man.
That is awesome. So let's talk a little high school playoffs right now. First week of the high school playoffs are in the books, and Erick, there were a couple of surprises, not anything major, but I tell you what, there was almost a major shocker in the 7A playoffs as Bentonville West barely hangs on to beat a 2-win Fort Smith Northside team.
I think that was the one game that I was kind of watching outside of my eye. I'm like, hold on now. Is Northside going to actually get this done, man? West ended up pulling it out, man. But, hey, Northside didn't have anything to lose.
Nope.
They came out and left everything out there, man, and almost got that monumental upset that you just mentioned, man.
They did. Playing with the house money, man, basically.
House money, literally played with house money, man. And they played well. That's probably their best game, to be quite honest, that they've had in a while. As far as, putting it together offensively and then, doing just enough on defense. But again, West, kudos to them. They came out and pulled it out.
They
did.
But
it's playoffs, man, so you almost can't expect anything different.
That's right. So West had taken a couple of big leads in this game, but Northside just kept hanging around and coming back. Finally, Northside gets within 3, 38-35, get a touchdown, and try on onside kick. They had tried onside a couple of times, weren't able to recover them. Tried an onside kick. West recovered it and was able to run it out. But big game again from Dalton Rice, the quarterback at Bentonville West. He and Jackson Brush have a nice combination there. They had 3 touchdowns. 3 touchdown passes or connections or whatever, and Bentonville West survives and moves on. Moving down and staying in the 7A, Fort Smith Southside, a team that we talked about all year long. They are able to put up a lot of points, but they also gave up a lot of points this year. Go over to Jonesboro, make the long drive from Fort Smith to Jonesboro, and come home with the win, 53-27.
I figured that game would be kind of high scoring. I didn't know if Jonesboro would have enough defensively to slow down Southside, and it turns out they obviously didn't.
They did.
Southside put up 53, but what's new with those guys as far as scoring, man? But big game from quarterback Carter Zimmerman.
Yeah.
And I think both the backs, I think Isaac and Amari both had over 100 yards rushing as well, man. So
yeah,
big win for Southside, man.
They get the win there, as you mentioned. Carter Zimmerman accounted for 4 touchdowns. So Southside gets its first playoff win. I don't even know when the last time Southside had a playoff win.
Man, it's been a little while, man.
Wow,
it's been a little while.
Man,
I had to look that one up.
Now they got the win there. They will be back on the road again this week. They get to come to undefeated Fayetteville, which had a first round bye after winning the 7A West. How about in the 5A? This was a game we talked about. Camden Fairview, the lower seed, after Farmington had won the 5A West and won the top seed. It was all Camden Fairview in this one, 59-29 against Farmington. Just too many athletes for Fairview, E.
In that game, that's one we talked about last week as being a potential pretty good game, man. And I wasn't surprised that Fairview came up and won, but I was surprised about how many points they did put up. To be quite honest, and like you mentioned, man, the athletes at Fairview, they've been had them forever, it seems, man, and they were there's too much up in Farmington last week.
Yeah, I got a chance to see Fairview play last year against Shiloh Christian. I think it might have been the second round of the playoffs, maybe the third. I think it was the second, and was just very impressed, with the athletes that they had on the field. And man, they're those guys get one step on you, and they are going to house it on you, and that's what they did.
Yeah.
That's what they
Right.
did.
Exactly.
That's what they did to Farmington. Shiloh Christian, they were at home against Hot Springs. We thought that was going to be a great game. We've talked about Hot Springs having a good team, being in a tough conference, but had a good team. Shiloh Christian 58-22 in this one.
That's another one of those games where I expected Shiloh to win, but I was kind of surprised at the spread. But again, I think Shiloh jumped on them early, man, and they pretty much took all the starch out of Hot Springs, and it was what I think at 1.44 was it 44-0 at the
Yeah,
half or something
yeah.
along those lines or whatever it was. But Shiloh took control early, man, and never gave it up.
Bo Williams only played a half in this game. He had 100 yards, a couple of touchdowns, but he only played a half. He's been battling an ankle injury for the past couple of weeks, so he hasn't been 100%. So I'm sure they were able to get him some rest in that second half. But how about their freshman quarterback Cole Creighton, 4 touchdown passes? Freshman.
I don't know. Has he played all year? I wasn't remember who their quarterback was.
No, they've had a sophomore at quarterback.
That's what I was thinking. But for hm to come in and throw 4 of them in the playoff opener, man, against a pretty good Hot Spring team, man. That lets you know what they got in the store for the rest of the few years he has at Shiloh, man.
Yeah, Hot Springs turned the ball over 3 times. You're not going to beat anybody, turning the ball over 3 times, and you're definitely not going to beat Shiloh Christian turning it over 3 times.
Definitely not going to beat Shiloh if you turn it over 3 times, and then you have a punt blocked as well. So
Yeah.
that when those things happen, man, it's pretty much going to be a long night, and obviously it was.
Yeah, it was, and a long drive home, afterwards. How about the defending state champions in 2A going out in the first round? Hazen ousted.
Man, I actually thought this was going to be the best game of the night, to be quite honest with you, going in. And I would have actually I thought about going over there, but there was too much other stuff going on, man. So I stayed close. But that game didn't surprise because Marktree is really good.
Yeah,
they usually put up a lot of points, and Hazen always has a good defense. So I wasn't shocked by the low scoring, and I wasn't shocked that Marktree went over there and won that game. Man, they are a really good team, and honestly, they're probably one of the top 3, 4, 5 teams in 2A that has a chance to win that state title, man. And then for them to go over there and knock out the defending champs, man, that says a lot about where they're headed and what they've done.
E, do you think that Hazen maybe had a little hangover from losing to Carlisle the week before?
I think it's possible. Losing to losing that game against a big rival, I think it's very possible. But again, I'm pretty sure Coach kind of tried to get them back refocused because, like I said, Marktree isn't your old Marktree teams of old. I mean, they're a really, really good team, man, and it wouldn't surprise me. They went on to make a deeper run in this postseason.
We know they got good athletes. They're always a factor in the basketball state tournament. They're always, it seems like they're in a battle for a state championship in basketball. So we know they got great athletes. So they get this one 22-12. Kenyon Carter accounted for 3 touchdowns in that game for Marktree.
It's a big game, big game.
Big game. How about Joe T. Robinson, also knocked out in the first round?
Southside Batesville has been good all year. I did think Joe T would have a few more athletes to go over there and still won. But again, Southside has been salty all year. I think the only team to beat them in conference was Valley View.
Yeah.
So Southside, they got it done, got a field goal, just a few seconds left to get that dub, man. And name of the game is to win in advance, man, and that's what they did.
Exactly. Joel Busby from 30 yards. You're right, with just a couple seconds left, and that gives Southside Batesville a 20-17 win against Joe T. Robinson. And I was surprised by it. But, hey, you know what? That's why they play the games, and man, that's why the playoffs are the best, man.
There you go.
Well, that's going to wrap up the first week of the playoffs for us on the podcast today. We're going to take a break right here. When we come back, we'll be joined by Richard Davenport of the Arkansas Democrat-Gazette, and we're going to talk about some recruiting. We'll be right back.
Get the latest breaking news on all Arkansas Razorback sports at WholeHogSports.com. Our award-winning reporters and photographers go beyond game recaps to bring our subscribers the most trusted Razorbacks news anywhere. With expert analysis, the latest in recruiting, plus unique and compelling stories of your favorite teams. Subscribe today at WholeHogSports.com.
And we are back with the Eye on Preps podcast. I'm Chip Souza, and I'm joined now by Richard Davenport of the Arkansas Democrat-Gazette. He is the recruiting guru for us. Rich, what's happening as we're getting closer to this early signing day in December for football? And also last week, we had our signing day for non-football sports.
Yeah, obviously, Coach Muss signed 2. Jalen Shelley and Isaiah Elam. Both of those guys, consensus 4 stars, and then Mike Neighbors signed an international player from the Netherlands, and had a good offer list. Made several visits to schools over in the States, and he was able to land her. She's a guard, but pretty busy. Obviously, you saw a lot of signings in all sports last week, and then and come December, it's going to be kind of interesting because obviously we're in kind of uncertain territory right now, especially after what happened on Saturday. A lot of speculation going around, and anytime you have a 3-7 season and you lose 48-10 to a team that you thought you had a chance to maybe pull out a victory on, that creates uncertainty in the recruiting and just the overall state of the program.
Well, Rich, I wrote in my column after the game that obviously there's going to be an overhaul of the football program in one way or the other, whether there's a change at the top or not, because they've got a lot of holes they've got to fill. And I also wrote in my column for people who are thinking that the quick fix to take a football program from a 3 or 4 win team to the promised land, all you got to do is look at Colorado and see how they turned over their whole roster, got off to a good start, but now they've lost 6 in a row. So the portal is not always the answer to get it done. It still comes down to, Rich, I think, signing kids and developing them.
Yeah, I can't agree even more. I've always said that your recruiting class, as far as high school kids, that's your culture. That's the base of your program. And you go to the portal to find some immediate help for a few spots that maybe kids from the high school ranks haven't developed at, whatever position it may be. So without a doubt, your nucleus is from the high school kids that you bring in and you develop, and they build your culture, and the guys coming in from the portal, they have to come in and kind of buy into the culture that the high school kids that have been there for a few years have developed. And that's the key. That's how you build a strong program, in my opinion. Obviously, you can get some quick fixes and stuff like that, but I think the base of your program obviously comes from your recruiting classes.
It's interesting, too, how different coaches view the portal. You take a guy like Dion, who basically turned over like 70-something players off of the Colorado team that he had inherited, and brought in pretty much an entirely new team. You got that on one end of the spectrum, and then on the other end, you got Dabo Swinney at Clemson, who says, I'm not going to use the portal. I'm not going to the portal. And now they're sitting here with 4 or 5 losses, and you're like, you might want to reassess that a little bit. I mean, I think there's some help in the portal there. So RD, it's hard to find that happy medium. And what you're seeing too in the portal is there's a whole lot of guys in that portal because they're not good enough to play where they're at. And when you sign them, guess what? They're still not that great.
Yeah, that can definitely be the case. And at the same time, there's some kids that we've seen that maybe have been sitting at another program, then they go to another program, and they see the field and they shine. Sometimes the connection or disconnect with the coach that kid's particular position coach, there's a disconnect, and they're, for whatever reason, I'll bring up Martrell Spade as an example. When he signed with Arkansas, and in 2013, his first year at Arkansas, he hardly saw the field. It was mostly special teams.
Yeah.
The following year, in 2014, he was an All-American. One of the best seasons Arkansas's ever had from a linebacker. He was the same guy, but you had a different defensive coordinator.
Right.
Certain coaches see certain things and like certain things in players, and sometimes there's a disconnect, and I think that's why you see some guys going into the portal, because they feel like they're not getting a fair shot. Martrell Spate went from a guy that hardly saw the field to an All-American the following year, and he had a different defense coordinator. So sometimes that can be the case, but there's so many different other reasons. Like you said, there's some guys that just not good enough, and they, the next school's just opened. Well, hopefully we can motivate him, and we can get him to playing a little better or what have you. But and then there's guys that had pretty good careers at schools and decided that they wanted to transfer for whatever reasons. But you have to do your homework, and that's something that I think overall Arkansas has done a pretty good job as far as the portal. They've done their homework on guys, and for the most part, the guys that they bring in from the portal are usually contributed.
Drew Sanders. I mean, what a great portal signing he was from Alabama. He was a guy that came in here, made an immediate impact, played one season, turned that into got a nice NFL draft slot, is playing well. I wish we had him for my Chiefs. I wish we had him there. But he's a guy that's made a big impact for them. And I think Andrew Armstrong's made a big impact for the offensive side of the ball for Arkansas this year. I think he's been
there's no
great
doubt. He is the one guy. He is the one guy when he catches the ball, he has a chance to go.
Yeah.
And when I say go, he has a chance to make a big play. You don't necessarily see that from the other guys. He's made some impressive catches and runs after the catches lately, and you see his speed, even though he's 6'4", 6'5". But he's been a good pickup, and in the secondary they've had some guys that have made some very good contributions too. So overall, the portal class has been beneficial to Arkansas.
Well, whoever it is that's running the show next year, they're going to have to find some offensive line depth for sure. That's the biggest glaring need, and to me, is they've got to get better there and get better depth there for sure.
Well, and I think what you'll see in some improvement there, because the younger guys that are in their second year, instead of just their second year, they'll be in their third year.
Right.
And usually that third or fourth year for an offensive lineman is very, very important to maybe see the field, just because their physical maturity and their strength.
Right. Now today is November the 13th. It's Monday, November 13th. We are just about a month away from the early signing day, mid-December. The recruiting class for 2024 for Arkansas for football, it was at 19. They've had one decommit. They're now at 18. And so they'll have to do the best they can to hold this class together, maybe add 2, 3, 4 more players. Is that about right, Rich?
Yeah, it just depends. Yeah, obviously they're still looking at defensive linemen, offensive linemen. Well, not offensive linemen as far as high school, but for the portal, they hosted Keyshawn Blackstock,
big dude,
former Michigan State offensive lineman, over the weekend for an official visit.
That was a big dude, Rich.
Yeah, pretty good size, 6'5", about 315. I was able to talk to him after his visit, and he definitely looks the bit.
Yeah.
But he's already officially visited Ole Miss, and North Carolina State has visits to Louisville and Penn State coming up. We'll make a decision mid-December.
Man, that'd be a nice get for them to get some guys with some size like that for sure. Once again, this is Richard Davenport. You can read Richard's recruiting column in the Arkansas Democrat-Gazette. Runs 3 days a week. You can also read his recruiting column at wholehogsports.com, and also follow him on the X to get the latest. And I think you're going to want to follow Rich here pretty closely in the next few weeks as he brings more recruiting and other information to both his column and Whole Hog Sports and on the X. Rich, as always, man, we appreciate it. And, man, I know you're not busy at all.
No, not at all.
All right, we're going to take another break right here. We'll be right back with the Iron Pelts podcast. We'll bring Erick Taylor back in, and we're going to talk about this week's week 2 of the high school playoffs here in Arkansas. We'll be right back.
Stay on top of all Arkansas Razorback sports with a Digital Plus subscription on the Hogs Illustrated app. Get complete Razorbacks coverage in one location. Your subscription gives you 20-plus issues of Hogs Illustrated magazine, the most unique and compelling coverage anywhere in the state, plus total access to all the content on wholehogsports.com, including breaking news, commentaries, analysis, features, recruiting, award-winning photos, and premium message boards. Subscriptions start at just $17 per month. Join the Hog Sports Network team at subscribe.waco.com. That's subscribe.wehco.com. Or call 479-684-5509 to get your front row seat to Arkansas Razorback sports. Go Hogs!
And we are back with this week's Eye on Preps podcast. I'm Chip Souza with the Hog Sports Network. I'm joined again by E.T. Erick Taylor of the Arkansas Democrat-Gazette. We're going to talk about week 2 of the high school football playoffs. And E.T., man, it starts with Mills at Parkview.
Man, I covered the Mills game this past Friday, and they got by win and a pretty good game actually. And Coach Cortez Lee mentioned, a little bit in this post game, talked to the team that they were really, they were going to enjoy that for the next 10 minutes, and then flip the page to Parkview, man. So that's a game they're looking forward to. It's a kind of a crosstown rival, so to speak. They're more known to face each other on the basketball court more so than football. But hey, this is a chance for them, as he said, a chance for them to make a name for themselves. So it's a big game, man. Between two teams that are pretty good teams, man. Of course, we know what Parkview brings, man. They've been doing it all year.
This is what they bring, E.
What they bring, man. Number one team in the state, brother.
Yeah.
I think, but Mills understands just the challenge they have in front of them, man, and it's not going to be easy. That's for sure.
With Parkview, man, they're like that Rocky movie, man, when the guy's telling Creed, stay down, just stay down, just stay down.
Right, exactly, man. But it should be a well-attended game, and the atmosphere should be really good over there at War Memorial. And like I said, Mills will be ready.
They will. And man, they're tough. E. I mean, they won a game a couple weeks ago without 12 of their dudes, man. We know they are tough.
They went over to Robinson and beat Robinson without 12, and it wasn't just 12 bench guys, man. These are 12 guys that most were starters.
Yeah.
So that's it. They'll be ready, man. But again, Parkview is a different animal. It's going to take a tremendous effort, I think, from Mills to get that done. But hey, again, like you said earlier, man, it's playoffs and anything can happen, man.
Talk about Achilles Ringo, man. First of all, is there a better name in Arkansas high school football than that name?
Achilles Ringo. And it's how old I feel. I used to cover his dad throughout his high school career when he played at Dalloway. And I talked to him a little bit after the game Friday night, man. And it's good to see him because looks like he can put on the pass now, although he's probably, I guess, 40 now. Or whatnot, but hey, that's a great name for a kid to have. I mean, he's a really good athlete, man. He plays basketball as well. But I think the thing about him that makes him really good, I mean, he's throwing all these big yards, but he's able to move the pocket with his legs, man. And I think that's the key for this team. He doesn't want to be labeled as a pocket passer because he throws better on the run, to be quite honest with you, man. And he keeps plays alive, and I think that's what makes this team go. And he's able to do that consistently against Parkview, and if Mills can get a few stops defensively, which is something that teams really hadn't done outside of Bryant consistently against Parkview this year, the longer they hang around, the better the chances. Put it like that.
Yeah, man. Brad Boulding, he's just brought that mental toughness to Parkview. I know E.T., you and I have talked about this more than once. If any guy out there was ever a perfect fit for Parkview, it's Brad Boulding, and they just line up and run the ball down your throat. And their philosophy is, this is what we're going to do. This is who we are. Stop it if you can. And so far, few teams have been able to stop it.
Exactly, man. They're going to keep doing their thing. They're not going to allow you to dictate what they do. They're going to just do the opposite, man. They're going to dictate what the other team does, man. And they get with something, stick with it. They'll find weaknesses, man, and they exploit them, more times than not, But that, again, like you said, he brings that toughness mentality to that team, man, that consistency, and they have a true culture over there now to the point to where they believe they're going to win every game, and you got to prove them wrong. And that's what you want, man, out of a coach, and it's been in a program like he had.
I was reading their story. They played Thursday night against Alma. Poor Alma. Hey, congratulations, you made the playoff. Oh, by the way, you got to play Parkview.
As your reward for that.
But apparently their running back and Coach Boulding didn't see eye to eye on the first couple of plays, I guess. And Boulding said, hey, get over there and sit down a minute. And then when you're ready to do it my way, I'll put you back in the game. And then he looked at the other 33 running backs he got over there and said, hey, number 27, come on in here and play.
Come on in here and play. And I think when he did that, I think the kid that got in, scored on the very next play.
Yeah.
Hey, that's Parkview for you, man. Gotta love that guy, man. That's my guy, man.
Man, when you're winning, you can do things like that. And again, he's what a tremendous job he has done over there. And he has built a monster. He has built a monster there.
Exactly, and hey, he's got more coming. I mean, they still got a lot of young kids on that team, man. So hey, they're gonna be there for a while.
Yeah. Let's
For a
talk
while.
about Cabot at Bentonville, Eric. Bentonville got a bye last week because they got the number 2 seed. They beat Bentonville West to get that number 2 seed, got a bye. Bentonville has not played well at times in this situation coming off of a bye. But the one good thing that Bentonville was able to get out of the bye was Carter Nye got an extra week to kind of get that ankle a little bit better. So, but
Right.
Cabot is not going to. I mean, that's going to be a tough game.
Cabot's been steady. They haven't won against the bigger teams, of course, Conway and Bryant and guys
Yeah.
like that. But Cabot's been consistent pretty much all year, and this is actually a game that they're probably looking forward to. They played Bentonville last year in the semis, and I think they lost by 2. I don't know if it was
Yeah.
the last second field goal or what
It was
it
a
was, but it was
tight
a tight
game,
game throughout.
Yeah.
So this is a game that they're probably looking forward to. And like I said, they played well. They played really well last week against Harbor. So Cabot's going to come up, man, and give it their best shot. But again, like you said, a week off gave Mr. Nye a chance to rest that ankle a little bit more. So I expect him to come out and have a big game as well. So this should be a pretty good game, man.
It should be. It should be. Shiloh Christian at Valley View, the Saints not really accustomed to going on the road for the playoffs like this, especially in the second round. How will that affect Shiloh Christian, you think, making that long drive up to Valley View?
Like you just mentioned, man, when the last time Shiloh's been on the road, man? It's been a while, I would imagine, man. And then they're going across the state over to Jonesboro with Valley View. And honestly, this is the game in 5A that I'm looking forward to more than anything, just because of what you just said. Shiloh is having to travel. They're not traveling, anywhere in their vicinity. They're going across the state to play a really, really good Valley View team. And as people may look and see Valley View on the schedule and don't think that they're a powerhouse football. They're probably more known for women's girls basketball and volleyball, but the football team has been good for quite a while now, man. It's not a first year thing for them. And they're really, really good at home. They beat down a really good male team last week as well. So I mean, it's one of these games where I expect a lot of points to be scored, to be quite honest with you, man. And we're gonna see how Shiloh adjusts to having to travel, that far for a playoff game, man, this early in the playoffs.
Well, we mentioned earlier in the show, Bo Williams was able to, to only play a half of the game last week against Hot Springs. So that he's been kind of trying to get over this nagging ankle injury. So, that should benefit Shiloh Christian. But, man, Carson Turley over at the Valley View, man, that quarterback has put up some big-time numbers for them.
And, man, that kid has been doing it his whole career. I think he gets a little doesn't get as much notoriety as he probably should, but that kid, he just wins. He puts his best foot forward every Friday night. He's always got that team in the games, and when they need a big play, he's usually the guy that makes it. So he is as good as advertised, and that's somebody that Shiloh is going to have to pay attention to. I mean, I would imagine he's probably circling on their scouting report as the guy to stop. And if you slow him down, then you generally can slow down Valley View. But if he gets going, it's hard to beat the Blazers, man, especially at home.
That should be a good one. And then this one, Ian, I can't believe I'm saying this, but Pulaski Academy is kind of lurking in the weeds a little bit here. They're at Marion. They're on the road. First of all, that they're on the road Friday night. They're at Marion. And I'm going to bet you that Anthony Lucas is playing this us against the world thing to them big time this week.
I can just about guarantee you he is, man. And he's probably told these guys, hey, everybody has counted us out and things of that nature. But I mean, be honest, I mean, can you ever count PA out in football? Regardless of what kind of season they had.
If you want to get snake bit, you can, yeah.
right. They can just as easily get it going and win this whole thing, man. But this is a game. Again, it's a big game, man, because again, they're PA kind of like we just mentioned with Shiloh. They're on the road, and it's not like they're on the road at Catholic or somewhere else, Morrison, places like that. They're going up Northeast Arkansas, and playing a really good Marion team on their home field. So we're gonna see how they adjust to that, man. But again, I'm with you on that, man. PA kind of a sleeper, it seems. I mean, which is just crazy to even say or even think that the defending champs that's been there just every year seemingly is being slept on. Yeah. That's wild.
Well, Brandon Cobb's having a big season for PA, 3,500 yards passing. No surprise there. They're able to put up big numbers. This is a big game. I know, if you're looking at it, if you're basing it on paper and looking at past history, PA rolls in this one, but I think Marion's going to give them a tough game.
think Marion will, man. Like I said, they're a good number 2 team from the East, man. There's no shame in finishing second to Benton, who has just been clobbering people ever since week 2, I guess.
Yeah.
But this is going to be a big game, and I guarantee you, PA is looking at it as such. And Marion, this is probably for Marion their biggest game of the year, since the Benton game, and they've got the defending champs coming in, and they got a chance to knock them off. So they're going to be amped for it, and I'm pretty sure PA will be as well.
Absolutely. Now, E, you got to give me your player of the week. I know we didn't have as many games played last week, because a lot of teams had buys or whatever. But I got my fingers crossed on who it might be. But who's your player of the week this week?
Man, it sounds like a broken record, man. You had several guys I was looking at, man. We just talked about Carson Turley at Valley View. I was looking his direction. Kyler Wolf at Lakeside had a big game. Deshaun Chairs up at Elkins. I think he had 5 TDs on the ground.
Yeah.
But I'm going to go with another guy from Northwest at Charleston. I always butcher the kid named Reese Marechka.
Marechka. Yeah.
Marechka, yeah. I've always butchered it. But he had a monster game with Charleston, man. He had 172 yards rushing, 6 touchdowns.
Yeah.
He caught 6 passes, had 7 tackles, 2 tackles for loss. And I think Charleston needed all of that to kind of slow down Barton. They ended up winning that game 49-28, I believe. But he's going to be the player of the week, man. He's one of those guys that one of their top returning players. He's probably the top returning player they had from luck. They lost so many guys from last year's team. But he stepped up in the opener, and they're starting to, I guess, make their annual state title run, man. But big game from him, and kudos to Charleston.
Yeah, this just in, man. Sleep on them Tigers, man. You go ahead and sleep on them, and you'll be you get
man. They do what they do, man. This their time of year, man, to get going, and he definitely got them off on the right track. That's for sure.
Yeah, you sleep on the Tigers, man. You and your girlfriend gonna get to have that date next Friday night, man.
Exactly.
You'll be available.
Exactly, man.
That's awesome. Well, man, ET, as always, I appreciate it, and coverage by the staffs of the Arkansas Democrat Gazette, Northwest Arkansas Democrat Gazette. You can't compete. They're the Parkview of media, is what they are. Great games, and ET, man, you guys do a great job down there, and my guy Graham Thomas, his guys, and Leland Barkley and those guys do a great job. So if you're listening to the podcast or if you're watching the podcast, I'm sorry, this is a face just made for radio or podcast, but you get to see it. But anyway, if you want to get the best in high school sports coverage, it's with the Democrat Gazette and WECO Media family, Arkansas Democrat Gazette in Little Rock, and Northwest Arkansas Democrat Gazette here in Northwest, and the River Valley Democrat Gazette down in Fort Smith. They've got the best in coverage for you, so you'll want to check that out. ET, man, I will get back with you next week, man. I cannot wait to talk about some of these games that we're previewing, man, next week.
And that's just the games that we mentioned. It's a lot of other good games, especially in them lower classes, man. I mean, one, and I did even mention, was the Malvern playing at Harder Academy, the rematch state title game. It's a lot of good games in this the second playoff week, man.
It is. Well, man, Eric, as always, man, I appreciate being on with me, and we'll be back next week with the Eye on Preps podcast.
Good deal.
Thank you, sir.